Presiding Officer, evidence being taken at the UK COVID inquiry today demonstrates why transparency in government is just so important. People were discharged to care homes without testing, too many people died, and people lost their livelihoods. So we absolutely need to understand why decisions were taken and what happened, so we can learn lessons for the future. Bereaved families were promised nothing less than full cooperation by the Scottish Government with both the UK and Scottish inquiries, yet they have been treated with disrespect. Promised transparency and a guarantee from the First Minister that all messages would be handed over, but instead the Government and individual ministers have so far failed to deliver. Messages from those closest to the decision-making have been destroyed on an industrial scale. And what we've seen instead is what can only be construed as deliberate and coordinated withholding of information. A public inquiry was talked about in May 2020. Why did ministers not retain evidence from then? The Deputy First Minister points to individual responsibility to cooperate with the inquiry. But surely it is the collective responsibility of the Scottish Government to ensure that its own procedures are followed, not least by the former First Minister and former Deputy First Minister. Does she agree with me that it is inconceivable that a former First Minister would not understand the importance of that evidence? And finally, Presiding Officer, have all of the 70 people in the 137 WhatsApp groups, ministers, special advisers and civil servants, been issued with individual Section 21 notices, or was this to the Scottish Government? And does that include the First Minister and Deputy First Minister? And can she confirm that you will be able to comply fully and have not destroyed any evidence?
Deputy First Minister.
So let me agree with Jackie Bailie, first of all, that in the midst of all this are families who have lost loved ones and have been profoundly affected. Many of us have families affected ourselves. So it's not in my interest or the Scottish Government's interest to not provide that information. And we have already provided 19,000 documents about decision-making and 14,000 WhatsApp, at least 14,000 WhatsApp messages will be provided by the 6th of November. The Section 21 order covers all of those messages because of the nature of the sensitivity of some of that personal information that is required. As I said in my statement, the Permanent Secretary and the Solicitor General have also been asked for reassurance in terms of the policy being followed. Ultimately, it is the requirement of each individual to comply with the policy. The recommendations and requirements were made very clear to everybody concerned. And the inquiry itself can, of course, interrogate the information provided to them by individuals in the course of the hearings if they consider it relevant to do so. But for the Scottish Government's purposes, I have set out in great detail in my statement what the policy, the management of information policy was, and the requirement and the clarity to ministers and officials of their requirement to follow that policy.